This is a Sales Geek academia to business translation production. Sales leaders, are you constantly battling the sales training budget? Traditional methods, they're expensive, often pretty inefficient, and frankly, the knowledge just doesn't seem to stick, does it?
Oh, absolutely. Think about it. Companies are pouring, over $1,400 per salesperson each year into training. That's way more than other
Yeah,
roles.
11% more, yeah. And yet retention is still this massive hurdle.
It's a huge investment, right? And the returns, well, they're often unclear. Plus, the market's moving so fast now, shorter product cycles, super informed customers. The pressure to, up our game in how we equip sales teams is just immense.
Exactly. And that's why today we're really excited to dive into this new wave of training programs. We're talking online, modular, gamified.
Product-sized learning, right? Accessible whenever, wherever, and actually engaging.
Precisely. So our mission today is to take a real deep dive into a recent academic field study that looked at exactly this kind of program. We're going to translate all that complex academic stuff into clear, practical insights for you, the sales leader.
Yeah, this isn't just theory. It's about actionable knowledge, stuff you can actually use to boost your team's performance. We'll look at basically three things.
Okay, what are they?
First, the direct impact. Does this online training actually move the needle on sales? Second, how that impact varies, because, spoiler alert, it's not the same for everyone. That's the heterogeneity piece.
Right.
And third, these really interesting ripple effects, the spillover, what happens when your peers start training.
Okay, great. Let's unpack that. Segment 1, the direct impact. Let's maybe start by contrasting it with the old way. Traditional classroom training. We all know the limits, don't we?
Oh yeah, information overload is a big one. People just get swamped.
And then they forget most of it almost immediately. Plus, it pulls them off the floor, right? Hits productivity.
Huge hit. And there's often no real follow-up, no reinforcement. And I mean, with roles changing, tech changing, that one-off session just feels outdated fast.
So how did this online program in the study address those problems?
Well, it was pretty cleverly designed. It had these short, 5-minute training modules.
5 minutes. Okay, that's manageable.
Exactly. Accessible anytime, anywhere.
Yeah.
And here's a key thing. Participation was voluntary.
Voluntary. Interesting. Why voluntary?
Well, the thinking is it actually boosts motivation. People opt in when they feel they need it, when they're genuinely ready to learn, makes it feel less like, mandatory homework.
Okay, that makes sense. But voluntary also means you need to make it compelling, right? How did they keep people engaged? Was it just watching videos?
No, definitely not passive.
Yep.
There was instant feedback through tests after each module. Really important for making the knowledge stick. But the real hook, I think, were the gamified elements.
Ah, gamification. Tell me more.
Salespeople earned points based on how well they did on the test, but also for engaging in the online community, like sharing tips or asking questions.
Okay, points. Leading to what?
Well, these points added up. They had tiers, like gold and silver performers. It created this sense of progress, achievement, and it wasn't just about bragging rights either.
Ah, so there were actual rewards.
Yep, small financial rewards, some gifts, and importantly, company-wide recognition. It created this sort of structured, healthy competition, all geared toward driving learning and keeping people coming back.
Okay, so it sounds like a well-thought-out system. What was the bottom line? Did it work?
Yes. The key finding was a significant positive impact on sales performance. And what's really fascinating is that this impact was on top of whatever the company was already doing with traditional training.
So it wasn't a replacement, but an enhancement, an incremental gain.
Exactly, a substantial incremental win. It showed that this online approach could really complement and boost their existing strategy.
That's powerful stuff. Did it work the same for all types of products they were selling?
Good question. No, there were differences. The study looked at two categories. Other products, these are the more established, familiar ones.
Okay.
And focus products, which were newer, more strategic for the company.
Right. So what happened with the other established products?
For those, the impact was pretty much immediate and significant. Just one extra training module boosted other product sales by about 12.9% in the same month.
Wow, 12.9%. That's huge, almost instant ROI.
It really is. But for the focus products, the newer ones, the story was different.
How so?
The impact was delayed. So taking an additional training in, say, month 6, only showed up as a sales increase about 5.3% in month 7.
Okay. Why the delay, do you think?
Well, it makes sense, right? Newer products just require more learning, not just for the salesperson learning the specs, but also learning how to sell it, how to position it. Plus, customers are less familiar too.
Right. It takes time for that deeper knowledge to actually translate into conversations and then eventually sales. Makes sense.
Exactly. It's a more complex sale, needs more effort.
But there was a catch, wasn't there? Something about the impact fading.
Yes, that's a really crucial point for leaders. The positive impact of the training, it diminished over time. It wasn't a permanent boost from a single module.
Meaning you can't just set it and forget it. Salespeople might hit a point where they feel they've learned all they can from the current stuff.
Precisely, which really underscores the need for continuous updates. You need to keep adding new, relevant modules to maintain that engagement and keep providing value.
Okay, so wrapping up this first part. Strong evidence for online, flexible, gamified training. It works, adds value on top of traditional methods, but you need to manage expectations on when you'll see results, especially for new products, and you absolutely need to keep the content fresh.
That's a perfect summary. It gives you a solid case for integrating these kinds of programs.
All right, so we've seen the overall positive effect, but now let's get into something maybe even more critical for managers. The fact that this doesn't work the same way for everyone. This is segment 2. The personal touch. Why one size really doesn't fit all.
This is where it gets really nuanced, I think. The study calls this heterogeneity, basically just acknowledging that salespeople are different, their situations are different, and so the training impacts them differently.
What kind of differences did they look at?
They looked at things like the salesperson's specific job type or role, and also regional context, cultural differences or market conditions in different areas.
And you hinted earlier, this variation wasn't just about how much positive impact someone got. For some, it was actually negative. Did I hear that right?
You did. And it's startling, frankly. For a small number of salespeople, taking this online training coincided with a drop in their performance.
Wow, a drop. Can you give us the numbers on that?
Yeah, the study found 3 salespeople who had a significant negative immediate impact on their focused product sales. So performance went down in the same month they did the training.
Okay.
And for the other, more established products, it was 11 salespeople who saw that negative contemporaneous effect.
11 people, that's not insignificant. It's a really stark reminder that even a well-designed program can potentially backfire for certain individuals.
Absolutely. It just hammers home that you cannot have a blanket approach. You need to understand those individual differences.
So, flipping that, who did benefit the most? Was there a particular type of salesperson who really thrived with this online training?
Yes, there was. Product specialists really stood out. The category they called SP3. They showed the highest relative positive impact.
On both types of products?
Yes, on both focus and other sales right away. And interestingly, they also showed the strongest positive effect over time from the cumulative training they'd done on the focus products.
So having that deep product specialization beforehand really seemed to amplify the benefit they got from the online modules. Like they had a better framework to plug the new info into.
That's a good way to put it. It suggests that specialist knowledge really magnifies the training's effectiveness.
And what about those regional differences you mentioned?
Right. They found that salespeople in the North and South regions tended to get a better immediate boost on their FANCs, other product sales, compared to folks in the West and East.
Interesting. Any theories why?
The study didn't definitively say why, but it could be market conditions, customer types, maybe even management styles in those regions. What was also interesting was the South region.
Yeah.
Even though their overall sales figures were generally lower than other regions, the incremental benefit they got from the training was actually higher. The training moved the needle more for them, relatively speaking.
Okay, so for you, the sales leader listening, this heterogeneity piece is huge. It's not just about rolling out a program.
Not at all. It's about using your data. You need to analyze who's benefiting most. Maybe it's your product specialist, maybe it's a particular region.
Yeah.
And just as importantly, who isn't benefiting or who might even be negatively impacted.
And then what? Tailor the approach?
Exactly. Maybe tailor the content. Maybe adjust incentives. Perhaps some people need a different kind of support altogether. The study even hints at maybe a 2-step approach. Deep product knowledge, first for specialists, then broader online sales skills for everyone.
So really understanding those individual nuances is absolutely key to maximizing your training ROI and avoiding, well, accidentally hurting performance for some.
Couldn't have said it better.
All right, let's move to our third and final segment. This one's fascinating, the ripple effect. We're talking about spillover, how one salesperson's training can actually influence their colleagues' performance, even if they don't directly work together.
Yeah, it's like this indirect effect, right? And the study did something pretty unique here, looking at two different kinds of spillover. They looked at the depth of peer training and the breadth of peer training.
Okay, depth versus breadth. Let's start with depth. What does that mean?
Depth refers to the total number of training modules completed by a salesperson's peers. So when your colleagues are really diving deep, taking lots of modules,
What happened?
it creates a positive spillover effect on your sales.
Really? So if the people around me are learning more, I benefit too. How much?
The study found that for every additional training module taken per peer, the focal salesperson saw, on average, a 6.2% increase in their focus sales.
Wow, 6.2% on focus. That's substantial.
It is. And there was a positive effect on other sales, too, about 1.63%.
So why does that happen? Is it just knowledge sharing, people asking questions in the team?
That's the likely reason, yeah. Either direct knowledge transfer chatting by the water cooler, virtual or real, or maybe just being in an environment where the overall knowledge level is rising. Maybe your peers give you better answers when you're stuck. It lifts the whole team.
Okay, so depth, good. What about breadth?
Breadth is different. This refers to the sheer number of individual peers who are participating in any training. So just an increase in the volume of people taking modules.
Right, more people jumping in. What was the effect there?
Here, the results were mixed, or even negative. For other product sales, an increase in the breadth of peer training led to a negative spillover effect.
Negative. So if more of my colleagues start training, my sales of established products might actually go down.
That's what the data suggested, yes. And for focus products, the effect of breadth was null, basically. No impact either way.
That seems completely counterintuitive. Why would more people training around me potentially hurt my performance on certain products?
Well, the study offers a few possible explanations. One strong possibility is increased internal competition.
Ah, okay.
If suddenly lots more people are skilling up on, say, the established other products, you might feel more pressure. The internal market might feel more crowded. People might start guarding leads more closely, that sort of thing.
So it could shift the internal dynamic from collaborative to overly competitive.
Potentially, yes. Especially in environments where it's already highly competitive. It could make people feel demotivated, or even, in extreme cases, lead to less helpful behavior. It seems this effect was particularly noticeable for those other products, maybe because the market share feels more zero-sum there compared to the newer, growing focus products.
Okay, that's a massive insight for leaders. Peer influence is real, but it's complicated. You want people learning deeply, but simply getting more bodies into training isn't automatically better for team performance and might even backfire.
Exactly. You need to be strategic about how you encourage training, fostering that positive knowledge sharing from deep learning, while maybe mitigating the potential negative competitive effects that can come from just widespread, perhaps shallower participation.
It's about cultivating the right kind of peer influence.
Precisely. It's building an ecosystem where learning benefits everyone, not just the individual clicking the module.
Okay, fantastic. I feel like we've really unpacked this study now. Mission accomplished, wouldn't you say? We've translated these academic findings into hopefully some really practical insights for sales leaders listening.
I hope so. The big takeaway for me is clear. This online, modular, gamified training, it genuinely works. It adds incremental value on top of traditional methods. It's not just a fad. It demonstrably moves the needle.
Absolutely. So let's crystallize this. What are the key actions a sales leader should take away from our deep dive today? We've got three main ones.
Right. Takeaway number one, strategically invest in online training. The data shows it works, it's scalable, it has that positive incremental impact. Embrace it.
But remember that diminishing return.
Exactly. You absolutely must keep the content fresh, continuously update modules, add new useful stuff that addresses evolving products and skills. Don't let it get stale.
Okay, number one, invest, but keep it fresh. What's number two?
Number two, personalized training for maximum impact. Really dig into that heterogeneity. Recognize that training hits different people differently. Use your data.
Find out who benefits most, like those product specialists. Which regions respond best? And crucially, who isn't benefiting, or who might even be seeing negative effects.
Yes, and then act on it. Tailor the content, the support, the incentives, maybe that two-step approach. Deep product knowledge first, then general sales skills. Don't just mandate one program for all.
Makes total sense. Personalize. And the third takeaway.
Third, cultivate positive peer influence. Understand those spillover effects. Encourage the depth of training, get people taking more modules, really learning the material. Use incentives to reward deep engagement.
Because that creates positive knowledge sharing.
Right. But be mindful of just driving breadth, simply getting more individuals to participate. That can increase negative competition, especially for established products. So focus on fostering a culture of actual knowledge sharing, maybe through those online communities, to amplify the good effects of deep learning across the team.
So encourage depth, manage breadth carefully, and build a sharing culture. Got it.
These 3 takeaways really show that optimizing training isn't simple, but it's incredibly powerful when you get it right. It's about managing content, individuals, and team dynamics.
It really drives home that training isn't just an expense line. It's a strategic lever, which leads us to our final provocative thought for you, the listener.
Imagine if every single training dollar you spent was precisely targeted, based on data, for maximum individual growth and maximum positive team ripple effects.
What hidden potential could you unlock in your sales force then? Something to really think about as you plan your next training initiative.
Absolutely. Until next time on The Deep Dive, keep learning and keep leading.